Okay, we are going to be starting now one of my favorite chapters in the book. This is from the Learn to Listen, Listen to Learn book, so you will need to get your book out. We will be using those. Some things you'll need as you go through this. You will need a piece of paper. You'll be doing some activities that we will then discuss in class. So that's very important that you get out a piece of paper, get a pencil or pen, and you'll be writing some things down. So your book, pencil, pen, and you'll be good with that. So first thing we'll be looking at is, again, this is on page 31 in the book. I am going to ask that you stay with me on the pages and not turn the page until I actually ask you to turn the page, because there's some activities we're going to do, and I'll tell you right out, the answers, they're not really the answers. The book's answers might be on the next page, and I want you to think about it first, and then we're going to think about why you like or don't like the book's answers for some things. And if you haven't thought about it first on your own, it's hard, you get the book's answers in your head. So please don't just flip and look. You are going to be doing some things, we'll be writing, and we'll be discussing those in class then. So at the beginning of the class, there is some discussion basically about your note-taking skills. Are you a pretty good note taker? What do you think? How about in English? How about in your native language? What do you do with your notes? Are they, you just like to take them to help you focus, or do you usually use them to study more and things like that? So what I'd like you to do right now is, you see a sentence on the board. It says, the sun is almost 93 million miles from Earth and is 9,940 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface. What I would like you to do is, I would like you to get your paper and to write down right now. We'll have about 45 seconds for you to write down that sentence as short as you can, which means you can cut out words. It doesn't mean to write really small print and make it really short. It means cut out words, make it like you would write notes, to get rid of anything extra, but to still have all the information. So, okay, go ahead. About 45 seconds for you to do that. And I'll sit here and stare at the camera while you do. So. 20 seconds. 10 seconds. All right, so I hope you have that. And when we're taking notes, you don't have 45 seconds to summarize one sentence. So really, once we get to it, we want this to take about 5 seconds to do, but 45, so you have some time to think about it and process. Well, a lot of the words can be cut. And if you look at my answers right there, my answers might not be the best answers. You could do different answers on there, but you'll notice that I have sun is approximately, I use that little squiggle to mean approximately, 93 million miles from Earth, and the surface is, and it has the temperature there. So that was my summary of how to do this. I also could have two different things. We have main point, we have the sun, and then we have some details here. So we have detail number 1 is it is approximately 93 million miles from Earth. And then I went down a line, and you could have surface is 94 or 9,940 degrees Fahrenheit. So two different ways, same information, and you may have something different. Maybe you have whatever. Like I thought surface was important because the sun in the middle is much hotter than on the outside. And so this is what I had. You probably could have had arrows here instead, but there's different ways that you could have done this to shorten it down. So that's what I mean by shorten it. So today, as we look at the class, as we look at examples, we're going to try to take sentences or ideas, paragraphs, whatever, and shorten them as much as we can. Okay, let's look at something else here. So I'm going to clear out our marks. All righty, and we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so think of some ways that was shortened. Okay, I'd like you right now to write down, just give you like 10 seconds, what were some ways that you or I shortened those sentences, shortened that sentence. Okay, you may have had things like abbreviations, possibly symbols. Some of you may have had drawings. There's different ways that you could have done that to shorten it down. All right, now again, this is where, don't flip the book. The game of this, I think of this chapter as like one big game. It's how to take a sentence or a paragraph and shrink it to keep all the information you can, but to shrink and get rid of all the extra information. So now we have another 3 more sentences here. We have, the Sahara Desert is the largest desert in the world. It's huge, enormous, and it's getting larger every day. So sentence 1. Number 2, JFK was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963. And number 3, often storks build their nests on chimney tops, and those nests are big. Okay, we've got 3 sentences. So right now, I'd like to give 1 minute to shorten those as much as you can to get rid of any extra words. And what you have left is, if you were just taking notes quickly, you have all the information, but with as few words as possible. All right, I'll give 1 minute to do that. Go ahead. Okay, 30 more seconds. If you're done, try to look them over and see if, 1, just read it. Does it make sense? Does it have all the information? And 2, is there anything else that you can cut? The game is to try to get them as short as possible, but keep all the information. So if you're done, look them over. All right, 10 more seconds. Okay, so you have some sentences there. Make sure you keep those. We'll be discussing that, and we will be doing that. So some of my answers, I had, for the first one, Sahara, largest desert in world. Again, it's not, doesn't have to be grammatically correct. So largest desert in world doesn't make sense. You need, oh, it makes sense, but you need the to be grammatically correct, the world. But you don't need all the grammar when taking notes. And getting larger. So those are, sorry, these are the book's answers. So those are a book's answer, number 1. Number 2 had JFK assassinated 11/22/63. So shortening it from the number, the whole thing down to just numbers. And number 3, we had stork's nest or stork nest on chimney tops, big. Now this is one, a lot of times the in and on part is not necessary, but in this case that on is, because it could have been in the chimney top, beside the chimney, on the chimney. I'm sure there's some other way you could do a chimney. So some different things there that you could do. But those are the book's answers. Now, again, the book's answers, and this is why I didn't want you to look first, are not always the right answers. And my answers are not always the right answers either. So we don't have to always be looking at those as right. My answers, by the way, I had very similar to theirs, but I changed a little bit. I had Sahara, largest desert, getting larger. Now, I didn't include in world, because if it's the largest desert, it sort of implies it's the largest desert in the world. It's not going to be the largest desert on Mars. We would have probably mentioned that. That's something special, or the moon, or anywhere else. So I dropped the world, even if it were like largest desert in Africa, in South America, in North America, in Asia, whatever, then that would be more specific. But when we just say largest desert, I didn't personally see the need to include the in the world part. It's not that it's wrong. I just, shortening as much as possible, didn't see a need for that. I also didn't see a need for the exclamation point, but that's just me. No big deal. For my answer for the second one, I just put JFK killed 11/22/63. All right, I didn't put the whole word assassinated. When taking notes, I don't have time to write the whole word assassinated. And all I really need to know is who and what happened. And that has it all. Now, for me, I know in my head the information that JFK was assassinated. I know he didn't die of old age or whatnot. So for me, I don't need to write that he was assassinated because I know that. I don't need it in my notes. It's part of my knowledge, just common knowledge there. So if you don't know that, you might need to put that bit of information. So what you already know impacts what you write. You don't need to write things if you already know that information. On the third one, my answer was, get that thing up here again, stork nest on chimney top big. So very similar to the books one. And this is one that I didn't do it online here because it's just wouldn't work so well, but you might even draw a picture for this one. Sometimes the best way to take notes is to just draw a quick picture of something. And some of you may have done that when you were taking notes. And that's true for some of the other ones we've already done. You may have, your notes may have been to draw a picture. Now, one thing on pictures, sometimes I've had people that their pictures are so wonderful little pictures that it took longer to draw a picture than it would have to write everything down. So you need to be careful that you don't let your pictures become a distraction when you're drawing pictures. So, all right. When we're taking notes, we really want to get the keywords. And this is on, if you flip now to page 33 in the book. And again, please just look at the top. The bottom does have the next thing we'll be doing. I'll just say that part B there. Don't look at the answers, cover it with your hand, because I know if I'm there and it's in front of me and I can just glance, I'm going to glance. My eyes will be like, oh, what's next? So you might want to cover that up. But it does have some of what the key words are. And you'll notice in your book it talks about nouns, active verbs, adjectives, and adverbs, all that. What I have is basically the easiest way to remember is the reporter words. Who did it? What was it about, or what was the thing? When did it happen? Where words, the place words, why and how, some of those key ideas, and that tells the story. Those are the main words. You don't usually need all of the grammar words, or I call them grammar words, but the structure words that fill in to make the sentences correct, you can usually cut. Okay, so look back at your sentences. All right, did you note the keywords, and did you leave out most of the other words, the structure words, anything repeated? Like you'll notice for Sahara, we didn't need to include huge, enormous, largest. Those are all the same idea. The one that's the most specific is largest. Several of them could be huge or enormous. So we drop those and just put largest, because that's the key word on that one. Okay, so how did you do? Take 15 seconds, look at yours. All right, now a note, and this is directly from the book, so I like to quote that, is basically take a break from grammar and reading writing class. This is not grammar class, this is not reading writing class. It doesn't have to be perfect. The book has a quote, do not spend time correcting your grammar or spelling. So when you're taking notes, if you spell something incorrectly, just keep going. Now, if it drives you crazy, if you want to fix it, you could maybe just draw a line through it and write it next to it. So I did put a note there at the bottom. If you do need to make a correction, try not to just go erasing. When you erase, it makes a mess and it's slow. So if you do need to correct something, just draw a line through the what's wrong and write the correct thing next to it. It's faster, and in the end, it does end up looking neater. But your grammar doesn't have to be perfect. Otherwise, you're writing more than you need to. And sometimes you spell words incorrectly, and that's okay. You're taking notes. Do your best. You can even abbreviate. You don't even have to write the whole word. So, all right. Some more here. Two more. John F. I don't need you to read them. You can read them on the screen there. And I'd like you on your piece of paper. We'll give 30 seconds to write both of them. So go ahead. Write them as short as you can. 10 more seconds. All right, we'll see what we have there. So in your groups, we'll be working on the best, what you think is the best way. I'll tell you the book answers here are they had JFK, 35th Pres of US. So that was their answer, and you can see that in the book at the bottom of page 33. And then for the second one, they had Cheney is G.W. Bush's VP. And then this one, you'll notice for the first one, they abbreviated John F. Kennedy as JFK. But for the second one, they said poor notes would have DC GWB. And the reason for that is, again, common knowledge. Everybody as a common knowledge calls John F. Kennedy JFK. When many of you came to America, where did you fly into? JFK International Airport. It's not usually John F. Kennedy International Airport, just JFK. And that is named after John F. Kennedy, and people know him as JFK. I believe even when he was alive, people knew him as JFK. I'm not sure, but that's my guess. As where if you say GWB, people look at you like, who's GWB? Or DC, people think of Washington, D.C., but not Dick Cheney. So that would be poor abbreviations for those. Now, if you're a history major and you're taking a class on the history of presidents, maybe that would work because you know it's just talking about presidents and vice presidents and you're taking some notes. So the situation, and again, common knowledge of what's common to you might change your notes. But as a general rule, DC-GWB's VP, oh, I forgot to put the VP on there, is not very good notes. So yeah. And honestly, for my notes, you'll notice I shortened some of them even further. I just put JFK 35th Pres. Again, I know it's of the US. I don't need to write that. Now, if we were listing world leaders or something, maybe I would put that. But I'm assuming that there's a common knowledge of JFK. I don't know which president he was. Was he 34th, 37th? That I wasn't sure. So I got the information I needed. My second one was very similar to theirs. I just took out all the periods. Technically, for abbreviations, you should have the periods there and stuff, but when I'm taking notes, that just takes extra time, so I left those out. Okay, so one thing about abbreviations is they need to make sense later. If you have such awesome notes, you shortened it so far down, like, yes, I have the shortest ones, and you look at it later and you're like, I have no idea what I was writing. That's too short. You need to put a little bit more. And it can be good to use standard, like common abbreviations. One, because later you might not remember your abbreviations from a while ago if you used wild ones. So there can be good to use some standard abbreviations. So what I would like you to do, again, don't look in your book. You can stay on the page you're at, that's fine. Just don't turn the page, is I have several words here. Percent, with, without, about, and all these different words. And I'd like you on your paper to number 1 to 14. Just do this very quickly. You can do it while I'm talking right now. And for each of these words, don't take time to write the word. You won't have time for that. You can do that when you're done if you have extra time. I'd like you to write a common symbol or abbreviation for each of those words. So for example, percent can be abbreviated actually as a symbol, just the percent sign. So with, how would you abbreviate that? Without, and you can do it right here up to speed as I'm talking here. Just write your answers as I go. Without, how would you abbreviate it? About, okay? Is more than, okay? Number 5, inches, okay? 6, example, okay? Just write them as I go, keep up. Number 7, male, like male and female male. Number 8, increase. Number 9, at. Number 10, female. Number 11, thousand. Number 12, morning. Morning as in like morning, afternoon, and evening. Number 13, money. If you don't get any others, most people get this one, no problem. So number 14, page. like a page in the book, page number. Okay, you got them? Great. Well, here's some common abbreviations. With, we have the W slash. Without, we have W slash O. For about, it might be the little squiggly thing. I'm sure there's a word for the squiggly thing, and I think I've looked it up semester after semester, and I still have just called it the squiggly thing. I think I had a student last semester or last year that looked it up for me again and told me, but I just call it squiggly. Or approximately, APX, abbreviation for that, is more than, the greater than sign. Inches can be the symbol, or IN. And again, I tend to forget which one is just one apostrophe and one is the double that quotes between inches and feet. So I tend to go with IN, but that's just me. For example, you may have EG or EX. Again, I tend to drop the points. For male, there is the male symbol, and some of you may have put that. I forget it. I know, I'm admitting I have a poor memory. I just write M. That's what I do. Increase could be up. Some of you may have put it on an angle. Different ways to do these. At. Right now, everybody knows the at, like at gmail.com. And I remember when I was in college, it was before, when email first came out, I remember I would be in my college dorm room and my sophomore year, I think it was, and there was this thing, email, that you could do it, but it only worked within our campus. It was an in-campus network. And the next year, Hotmail came out. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can write a letter and send it somewhere. And I called my parents on the phone you actually had to pay to use and all of that stuff. At some point I said, guys, we can send a letter. I can send it here and you'll get it. And I remember I was talking to my mom and said, no, that can't happen. No. You get on and you get this program, Hotmail. And you can figure it out. Dad can help you figure it out, whatever you guys can do it. And we can send letters. And it was so amazing. And none of us knew how to write that symbol. So we sat in our college dormitory practicing all these squiggles to try to figure out how to draw the at symbol. Today people do it. It's just like ABCD at. Female, we've got F or the female sign. Again, I tend to forget the signs. I just go with F. 1,000 is K. Well, you can think about why is 1,000 K? It's not TH. So anyhow, morning is AM. Again, when I'm taking notes, I drop the dots. Technically, they're supposed to be there, but money, there you go. You all got money. Page, P, PG, you may have had some other ways to do it as well. So common symbols, all right? Now, for symbols, it's nice to use some common ones, but it's not as important that others understand them as long as you do, as long as you understand them in the future. And common symbols can really help with that. So we will do this next part in class. And so for now, that's all you need to know. And I'm going to hit stop.